Hello and welcome everyone to this live episode on SAP UI5 Flexible Programming Model Training with me, Anubhav. In the last episode, we talked about how can we add a table control, which is part of Fiori elements as part of our custom application. We have learned about the building blocks of filter bar and table control to be added to our custom Fiori application. The idea of this series is to learn how can we utilize the Fiori element together with the flexible programming model to adapt our application with freestyle controls. We step in this episode with the most interesting part where you will learn how can you inject now the custom controls in the middle of the existing building blocks. So in today's episode, I will show you how to customize your smart filter bar with a pull to down button. Followed by that, as per our initial design, which I discussed in a first episode, we will also include tiles. The tiles will be also created dynamically. So let's understand our first requirement for today. Our first requirement for today is basically to add a pull to open button in the toolbar. So our current layout includes a smart filter bar, which has multiple fields with a table at the bottom. This is our standard layout of Fiori element, what we created so far. So here we have the smart filter bar building block, and here we have the table building block. What I want is I would like to add here a pull to open button, which when you click, it will collapse the smart filter bar. So this is my first requirement. When it collapses my smart filter bar, I would like to also show user the filters which are selected, filter count. That is my second requirement. My third requirement is after it is collapsed, I would also later on show the tiles. The tiles will show the information about travel requests with the travel ID displayed here along with the travel amount. Let's say 900 US dollar, 850, 300, 190 and so on. So this is my requirement. Let us go ahead and implement the first requirement where we will add a pull to close button for the filter bar. This is fully customizable. The idea is to adapt our Fiori element application with these additional changes. I'm going to now switch over back to our Fiori application, which we are building on Business Application Studio. And parallelly, I will open the SAP UI5 documentation. So we go to the ui5.sap.com for the UI5 SDK. And here we go to Tools. On the bottom, when you scroll down, you will find Flexible Programming Model Explorer. You can click on that. And now you can see this is our flexible programming model. What we are going to do in this now is to go to the building block section and we open the smart filter bar overview. You can see there is an example provided by them to have this small tiny button to collapse and expand the filter bar. This is not a standard feature of Fiori elements. You can notice, let me go back to our application. We don't have that collapse button for the filter bar. So SAP also provide the documentation on the right side. In order to add this extra functionality, we will take help of dynamic page. A dynamic page consists of three important aggregation. The first aggregation is called the title aggregation. The second aggregation is called header aggregation, and the third is called content. The title and the header aggregation are basically auto interchangeable with a pull to refresh button with this button. So with this carousel button, when you click on collapse, it will show this particular content. But when you expand the carousel, it will show this particular content. So that is what is called a dynamic page. So we take help of this dynamic page. So the current building block for filter bar, what we have, we are going to integrate in the header section. And the title which we would like to show to the user, we will integrate in the title aggregation of the dynamic page. In addition to that, we also adding two important namespaces, which is the layout and the F layout. So let's go ahead and include this code. So I'm going to copy this two namespaces first, switch over back to our Fiori application in the view, and we will first add these two namespaces, the layout and the F namespace. The next section, I will include now a dynamic page. Let's bring the whole thing over here. Instead of a plain page, we have a dynamic page. Now I will take our table building block, cut from here, and put it under the content aggregation of this dynamic page. So replace the panel with the table control. Remember, the content aggregation will always be displayed to the user, always. Then we will take our filter bar building block, cut it, remove the page also completely, and just come down to add that over here. You can also notice, in addition to that, in addition to what we are going to do here, in addition to that, we also going to add a action called filter changed. Filter changed and search action. So we don't want search, but we want filter change action. This action will be triggered at runtime whenever user change any filter criteria, so that we can show the user by building a text at runtime how many filters user have selected. So that's an action which we are adding. Yes, now the above part, we don't touch it, let it be, and remove the page which was there earlier. So now we are using dynamic page instead of the static page. In the title aggregation, you see this is the section which will come when you collapse, and this is the section when you expand. As a result, when you go back to our application now, you would see that in our application, we will have this carousel coming up with expand and collapse. Very nice. Look at that. Awesome. Awesome. So now you can see when I collapse, I don't see any text over here, but when I expand, I see this filter bar. So this is not a standard functionality, yet we included that with the help of custom controls. When I collapse it, I would now want to show a label here. I want to show a text to the user on how many filters were selected by user in the filter criteria. For example, if I enter some agency ID 7009, enter a customer ID 330. So what I want to do when I collapse, I want to show here that there is an agency, there is a customer, and there is a draft filter which is chosen by user. So that text is not there at the moment. If you notice, we already binding with FB condition filter text info. Filter text info is nothing but a property from a local JSON model, which is a named model FB conditions. This concept I have taught in the basic UI5 training. So if you are new to UI5, please consider joining our open batch on SAP UI5 and Fiori training at anubhavtrainings.com, because there we have covered the core concepts of UI5. Those who have already taken the training, this is a named model, and this is a property in that local JSON named model. We can switch over back to the SAP reference and create this JSON model. So you see there are two actions. One is handler section and one is on after rendering. I will bring that code here to my controller. What are we doing here? So in the on after rendering, once the application is displayed to the user, we are creating a JSON model. So let's add that dependency. SAP UI model, JSON model. So we are creating a local JSON model with all the filters expanded and filter info text. So remember, this filter info text is what we are binding with this text over here, so that user will see on in the collapsed mode how many filters were chosen. So this we will build it dynamically, and this is we are setting as a named model at runtime. The calculation of choosing the number of filters or this text is done in this action when user change a filter. So whenever user changing a filter, we are calling on filter changed action. So on filter changed action, what we are doing? We are getting the filter bar object and all the filters with their values. Then we are basically checking how many total filters are there, basically getting the count. And then we are, after getting the count, we are concatenating that and putting it into the model. We also want to show a toast message. So let's add the dependency on toast message. That's also required. And I save. Cool, that's it. Let's switch over back. And now when the application reboots over here, we should be able to change any filter and then we will see what is the value comes. So let me just enter some values. I will enter agency ID 070043 and the customer 000 and 594. So you see I entered 1, 2 and this editing status 3 filters. But when I collapse now, you see 3 filters active and the field names on which these filters are active. So earlier that label was not coming, but now the text we are evaluating on entering any filter criteria. You see it's calling on toast message also. I hit the go button and the data comes. Guys, in the last episode, there was also a weird error coming related to this GUID. So this error is because of our base data model, which is built on the CAP. To solve this problem, you can switch over back to our base data model in the schema.cds. And for the travel entity, change the data type instead of UUID to string of 30 so that this error will go away. So that is something which is CAP related stuff. You can join our CAP course on Anubhav trainings also. We have a dedicated training on BTP and CAP development where we covered these data model concepts for CAP. Okay, so now we are ready. So this error should go away now. So I click on go button and yes, you see the error is no more coming on drill down. So we also solved that error. Perfect. The next section which I want to also do is add tiles. So we are right now just see the filter bar text. We also want to add tiles together with it. So to add the tiles once again, of course, we need to go to this section here and we will be adding the tiles in the snipped content. So snipped content is the content which will be displayed to the user when user click on collapse. Yeah, when user click on collapse. So that is the time snipped content will be displayed. So what I want to do is I wanted to add basically a container and I want to create multiple tiles at runtime. Yes. So let's see that. So I go to snipped content. I will first add a panel with a header text equals to, I will say, I wanted to show here the highest price tiles and the panel. I will also add another panel where we'll say header text equals to my filter count. And I'll move this text inside the panel. So now I have split into two panels and these two panels, one is the highest price tiles where we will be creating dynamically our tiles and the second is where we move our existing text. Now to create the tiles dynamically we will use something called a header container. In a header container control I am going to do the binding with also I would like to add a scrolling property. Scroll step to 200 with show dividers equals to false and we will add here the content aggregation. This content will be created dynamically. Yes, Let me stop the server for time being by using Control C so that it won't disturb me until unless I finish my code. So we will create here a content aggregation for the header container. So let's end the header container. Inside the header container, now we are going to create the tile. But how many tiles we will create? We will dynamically create tiles based on the travel entity. So what I will do is I will do the aggregation binding here. So let's put the path and I will say get from / travel entity. Get all the travel entries from travel entity along with the filter condition. So I'll pass parameters. I'm going to say please add a dollar filter. So this is the beauty. In OData v4, we can directly pass the filter during the binding. We can say the travel status code is equals to escaping character, single quote 0, escaping character, and is activity entity equals to false, means not the draft ones or sibling entities, / is active entity equals to null. So please get me all the ones where the travel is open and they are not in the draft state. Also, please order by all my data in the based on price, total price in descending order. So the ones, the travel requests which are the most expensive ones will be displayed first as a tile. So computer will automatically replicate and clone the control which we will add inside now here. So let's add a generic tile now. With header as travel ID. I will also bind here travel ID. So this is how we can do binding. Subheader for the tile is going to be description. And then we can just also add a press action. When somebody press the tile, what should happen? We can go to handlers dot on tile press. Whenever somebody press the tile, what should happen? So that is my tile content. What we are adding is we are adding a generic tile. Now inside the generic tile, we will add the tile content. So that's our next step, next level of drill down. Tile content with the unit equals to currency code and footers equals to customer / last name. So that's my content of the tile where we'll show currency code and the last name of the customer to which this travel request belongs to. We can finally add the number or numeric content aggregation. And here we will just provide the value, which is total price, binding with the relative path total price. So all are relative paths here for the tile. So it will dynamically create as many tiles as many travel requests are there in descending order by total price. We can say value color equals to good in the green color, and we can say scale equals to K. So that is how the system will dynamically create as many tiles as many travel requests are there. So this is basically an aggregation binding what we are doing over here. So at runtime, what will happen? System will create these many tiles. So let's go ahead now and test our application. So we can just start our application by put upper arrow in enter. It should reboot our app and we should see the dynamic tiles getting created automatically in the container. So it comes here, there is all good. Now let me collapse and show you. You see highest price tiles and filter count. So filter count is coming, there are two panels, but where are my tiles? Something is wrong. Press F12 and let's see if there are any problems. So you see value good is not a valid value. Okay. Encountered unknown error. Yes. In generic tile, you see subheader. There is a problem called subheader in this generic tile. So let me go back to generic tile, subheader. There is some problem here. This should be small letter. You can always go and check documentation on UI5 SDK. So ui5.sap.com, go to API reference, generic tile control, and here you can check the aggregations and properties. So there is a property called header content. Sorry, subheader. You can see subheader. It's all in small letter. Yes. So that is what we add now. And we can switch over back. Press F12 and still not coming. Okay, let me just refresh. So if there are any issues during our code, the things are not going to work. Let's go and explore that. So I'm going to go back again. Now you see there is another problem. The value good is not valid for the value color. Yes. So we need to check the value color value in the UI5 SDK again. So value color, these are the different value color. It's GWD good G capital. Yes. I think that's the one. Let's give it a try. I will reload the application. And still the tiles are not coming. So let's explore what else is causing this issue. So the reason could be that the data may not be loading. Because of that, the binding, aggregation binding is not able to replicate the tiles. So we can go to network tab and refresh the page to just actually observe the calls which it is making to the backend. So we can debug the same. So that's a good way that we can troubleshoot. So we can go back. You see tiles are not coming, but it should have definitely made a network call to load all the travel data according to our condition. So we need to look at that batch call. Here it is, and we can just double click, and now we can go to payload to replicate this entire batch call over here. So I'm going to copy and paste it over here. And you see, yes, my doubt was right. It is not producing any data. So what could be wrong? Travel status code equals to, oh guys, I've done a mistake. You see, the travel data for the status code is O, not 0. But I have given here 0. Yes, that's causing the issue. Yeah. So we need to basically remove it to O, open travel requests. And yes, the data comes. So basically there is a mistake. Instead of 0, it should be O, means open travel request. I save it. Let's come back to the application where it has to reboot the application. So now we tested and troubleshooted the OData call, and because of OData, the data was not coming, and I collapse. There you go. Awesome. Look at these travel requests. The tiles were automatically replicated dynamically. Superb, guys. That's our dynamic content. So you can see how beautifully we can design our application. We can extend our application. So now when I click, nothing is happening. Never mind. We can switch over back and implement this on title press event handler under the handler section with the event object. And I can say the toast message dot show wow and wow. So as usual, I am going to share this entire source code with all of you. kindly check the description of this video to find the complete source code of this session. So I'm going to go back and reload, and let's go back. I click, it should give me the toast message. It's not giving, something is wrong. So it should ideally trigger on tile press event under the handlers. Is the handler spelling wrong? Yes guys, my handler spelling was wrong, and this is the event. Let's try again. So we can come back and reboot one more time to see the value on the UI. So I'm going to come here, and there you go. Wow and above. It's triggering wow and above. That's a wow moment. So how we can integrate a completely custom logic in the middle of the standard Fury element kind of a experience. So having said that, it comes to the end of our today's episode. Thank you so much once again for joining the session today. For the foundation training on UI5, BTP, CAPM, BAS, feel free to subscribe our course on unaboutrainings.com. I'll see you in the next episode. Have a nice day and goodbye.